check it out again. If it's that good, you want to listen to it over and over again, you can do that. So we'll crack on. And just another reminder, as Marco said, there are some prizes. So there are more polls today, more opportunity for you to contribute in the chat. If you do have any questions, good questions get prizes. So contribute and ask questions in the chat, and Marissa will pick them up and let me know there's questions there. So let's roll on. So this is module 2. Yesterday we covered an introduction to safety in design. Module 2 lets us put some of those things in practice. By the end of this module, you'll be able to understand the Council Safety and Design procedure, particularly focusing on the risk assessment part of that and the reporting. And also we have a small group exercise where we apply the safety and design procedure. We'll be breaking out into small groups and you'll be having a go at applying that procedure as part of a design project. Okay, just to start everyone off, I'm going to hit play on this. Hopefully it works. There's no sound. I've muted the sound. I'm just going to see if I can jump ahead here. Can everyone see that? It's looking good.
Mark your mouth.
So now this is a video of something that came up on YouTube as a suggestion for me while I was preparing this the safety and design module. I thought it was the perfect video just to glance at and have a look at, and it's sort of, oh geez, I pressed something there. Let me go back. Try not to click on anything. So this is a demolition of a chimney stack. I think it was attached to a cotton mill or something like that. So it was, it's been around for a while, and so this demolition is happening in 1979, I think, and it's a great example of, I guess, safety and design not being front of mind. And I doubt when this was designed, it probably wasn't even a concept that existed. So not criticising them, the designers at the time, they were just doing the best that they obviously could with the knowledge that they had. So it's showing the demolition of a structure, and this guy's actually quite a personality. He's passed away now, but received an honorary doctorate in engineering, a MBE. And was quite a TV personality. So he's scaling that structure on a ladder that he's rigged up himself, not attached to the ladder at all. And he's going up there to demolish the chimney brick by brick. So this is a scary part. He's rigged up all this scaffolding and stuff like this. So to get on his platform, he's reaching around and over and moving things around to get on top. So yeah, it just gives me chills looking at it, but there he goes. So yeah, he's up there and he starts his work. So it's extraordinary, I think, that that was it's not
nice
that
one, Pete. Do I have to watch this?
Yeah, it does feel like that. And when you see him working on a couple of planks of wood and with his chisel and mallet or whatever he's got there, yeah, it's just blows your mind. But you can, Fred Dinbar's his name, you can probably Google it, you'll find it pretty quickly. So I think this was the start of his fame, and this is a BBC documentary of him doing this work. But then he's yeah, there's plenty of other stuff that he did following that. So everything gets dumped into the chimney and spits out at the bottom, and it's got a helper or something down there. I think I'll just see if I can find one more part to jump to. It's him going back down for a break, but yeah, that's his mate at the bottom, and everything just gets thrown down the chimney and gets spat out the side. So yeah, it's quite extraordinary. But thought that was a good video to share to get us thinking about safety and design. Let's just crack on to the next slide. So I just want to just go over quickly what we were doing yesterday, introducing those terms, introducing safety and design. So what safety and design is, it requires that a designer ensure, as far as is reasonably practical, that a structure is designed to be without the risks to health and safety of persons who, at a workplace, use the structure, construct the structure, carry out any activity at the structure. That's usually maintenance or assembly or even demolition and disposal, as we just saw in the YouTube video. Those people that are in the vicinity of workplace and are also exposed to workplace activities at the structure are also considered by safety and design. So some of those terms we looked at, we talked about workplace, anywhere that work is undertaken, anywhere where a worker is likely to go while at work is a workplace. Structures, anything that is constructed is a structure. So we had those examples we looked at yesterday. Who is a designer? Not just those people in the pictures, but anyone who prepares sketches, plans, or drawings, or makes decisions that affect the structure is a designer. And we talked about what is reasonably practical, requires consideration of all those things there, the likelihood of exposure to a hazard, the degree of harm coming from exposure to the hazard, ways that you can eliminate or minimise the risk, and the cost associated with it, and whether it's grossly disproportionate to the risk. So these, when we're talking about our safety and design procedure, we're going to be referencing these design stages. So we've got planning, concept design, and detailed design. We're going to talk about the procedure in reference to these parts of a design life cycle. So just to get you going, everyone participating, we'll throw up the first poll that we've got, and I think it's a bit of a gimme, this one, but we'll see. We'll see. At what time in planning or design of a project should the consideration of safety and design commence? So there are your options there. After the design is all done and dusted and certified, at 75% completion of detailed design, as early as possible, or when the contractor who's building the structure asks you for a safety and design report. Responses are flowing in, which is great. Almost there. Give it another 5 seconds. Okay, I think we can end the poll there, Marissa, and share the results. So, yep, I made it too easy, I think. So it's as early as possible in the design process. I think I might have mentioned that yesterday as well. So well done. We're up and running. So we want to consider safety and design as early as possible in the design process. It gives us, I guess, the maximum opportunity to vary the design to minimise or eliminate those risks. So this is very much a summarised version of the tasks required in the safety and design procedure. And as we mentioned at the conclusion of the module yesterday, the safety and design manual is currently in draft, and it's available in the LMS, and that provides more detail around this procedure. And we'll finalise that manual at the conclusion of this training and taking on board any input we receive. So in the following slides, we'll go into more detail around this procedure, but just want to make the point that there's a difference in expectation, I guess, in terms of planning, which may be more strategic in nature compared to concept and detailed design. So it's in that concept design and detailed design stage that we move into those formalised risk assessments and safety and design reports. So we'll cover that in more detail in this module. So on the right-hand side of the screen there, you can see all those tasks broken out from that table, and we're just going to go step through each one and have a quick discussion about the task, and we'll just roll through things like that. So it's important to establish the design context, and those are the dot points you see there: the purpose of the structure, its intended use, service requirements, service life, any financial constraints or related projects that might be, I guess, related in terms of project stages, or just something that is spatially close to the project that you're working on, might be a related project. So this information might already exist, I guess, in terms of a project brief that you've received as a designer, a scoping document, a project proposal report. That might be already there, and there might be an assumption that, well, everyone knows what the design's about, but it's important that the design context is sort of defined and established so that everyone participating in the safety and design process has the same level of understanding, remembering that as part of the design, safety and design process, we'll be involving people with other design skills, we'll be involving workers that will be either involved in construction or maintenance of the structure, and they may not be aware of the actual overall purpose of the structure, its intended use, or every aspect of it. So in the early stage of the safety and design process, some of these early tasks can be undertaken by a smaller team, maybe the primary designer or engineer, planner or project manager involved in the project. And it's when we get down to the later stages and we've established a wider group, that's when we get others involved, like we spoke about yesterday about that wider involvement. So that's the design context. Now, it's also important to establish the risk context. So we establish the risk context, so same level of understanding in the project. So we identify early on potential workplace hazards, relevant legislation, codes of practice or standards that the project will need to adhere to, and identify all the ways that the structure will be a workplace. Skills and competencies, again, just as we spoke about yesterday, persons with specific skills and expertise may need to be included in the design team or consulted with during the safety and design process to fill in any knowledge gaps. So as part of the tasks and your eventual reporting of safety and design and the safety and design assessment, we'll need to have evidence that we've identified all the skills and competencies required for to be involved in the process. Specialist advice, again, like I said yesterday, if we need specialist advice, that needs to be brought in. That might be especially the case when we're looking at unusual structures, complex structures, or we just don't have that relevant design experience in our team. So the safety and design consultation group. So now this is the group, this is the term that we've used to describe the group that will basically work together to undertake the risk assessment and be called upon in the safety and design process. So that is our group of designers with all those relevant necessary skills. But it also will bring in representatives from construction, asset maintenance, asset management, and maintenance that will be involved in constructing the structure, maintaining the structure, involved in any of those, downstream areas of a project. And then we'll move on to our risk assessment, and there's more detail on the risk assessment to follow. And for our concept in our detailed design stages, it's important to have a risk assessment undertaken so that we can influence the design, really. So, and that's why we've identified that in the process we need an initial risk assessment completed before 50% design progression. And that 50% mark allows enough design to be completed so that there is design knowledge and some design maturity to allow you to do a worthwhile risk assessment, including identification of risks. And the second part is the update at the 90% design progression. So making sure that any of the outcomes and findings of your assessment at 50% have been considered and incorporated in the design, and that there's no new risk items that have since sort of appeared, I guess, as the design has progressed. So the update at 90% is the I guess the catch-all for the stage of the project that you're working in. So once you've done I guess an initial the risk assessment, I guess the safety and design workshop will be the primary forum that you use to develop that risk assessment. The safety and design workshop brings in your safety and design consultation group, and typically that there will be a review of a pre-populated safety and design risk assessment. I think many of you have probably been in risk workshops, and just because of the nature of the task, the time available to attendees, it's usually more efficient to have that maybe that smaller group that you primary designer or engineer or planner establish the risk assessment and bring that to the safety and design workshop so that the assessment can be reviewed, the risks and ratings can be confirmed, any new risks can be identified from that wider group of participants that you have at the workshop. And then you can go through and also identify risk control measures and rate those risks with control measures in place, identify any items that you need to go away and think about and consider in your design. So just another thing, there's many ways, I guess, nowadays. A lot of these risk assessment workshops will be done on Teams and Zoom as we are now. So I've been part of workshops that have used Mural. So particularly if you've got a lot of contributors, it's a good way to get to allow people to have their input at the same time, or provide input at the same time. It doesn't rely on sort of one person speaking and then moving on, and some people not getting a say. So there's different ways to do that, and that's going to really depend on the number of participants that you have and the forum and that you're operating in. So I've skipped over the risk assessment update there after the workshop, but that's required. That's at your 90%. So I've just jumped there down to the safety and design summary or safety and design report. So at a planning stage, we expect that a safety and design summary will be prepared, and planning projects can have a range, I guess, of design that accompanies them. So at some strategic level planning projects, your design definition is going to be limited. And so it's not going to be feasible to undertake a risk assessment. So that's why we're looking at a safety and design summary that can be included in a planning summary report or similar, so that it can be seen and picked up by the next stage of the project. That's not to say that it doesn't sort of exclude you from, if you're a planning project and you've done a reasonable level of design, it certainly doesn't stop you from undertaking a risk assessment. But in most cases, if we're looking at planning projects, then a safety and design summary will be sufficient. So just an evidence that you've considered some of the risks, identified the skills and competencies that would be required, and consulted with with those that you know and you can consult with at an early stage, and you identify and record any considerations in your planning report.
I'll just jump in there, Paul. I think because we've got a few of the planners here from Simon's team and stuff like that, I think like an example of that would be if they're doing a road corridor and they know there's going to be a bridge. I guess they would flag that in their summary. They'd say, look, we're proposing a bridge. Safety and design would have to take into consideration the construction and all that sort of stuff. That's sort of the thing that they would need to include.
That's right. Yeah, at a high level, and if you can, even at that high level, and I can see Andrew's asked a question about planning projects with no design. So yeah, fat pen type sketches. Should we do a safety and design summary? And yeah, the answer is yes there. Acknowledging that you've got very little design definition if you're drawing sort of lines on a page, but if you can identify any aspects that you think might require consideration in the future, then that should be recorded in a safety and design summary. Like Marco said, if there's a bridge, if there's an unusual, if there's a bridge over a railway line, for example, is a good consideration there. You'll need to involve some rail people at some stage down the track in a project such as that. Anything that you can identify, but acknowledging that sometimes when you're doing sort of lines on a map, then you'll have no design definitions. So there's probably it's not expecting the world there if you're at that level. And so the second part of that is a safety and design report, and that's what we see is being required for concept and detail design projects. A safety and design report will be a part of that information package that is transferred on to those that either construct or maintain, operate those structures. If it's concept design, for example, and you might have an external consultant that runs their detailed design well, the safety and design report can be passed on to them to further develop, but at least it captures those risks that you're aware of and were identified at concept design stage, and it gets passed on to the detailed design stage so that they're aware of what you found. Excellent. All right. Now we're just going to move into talking about a risk assessment in more detail. The term risk is used quite often, and the Australian standard definition is not a bad one. It's the effect of uncertainty on objectives. So our objective when we're designing a structure is that we want it to be without risk to the health and safety of persons that will use the structure. So that's our objective, is for people to remain safe when they're at work. So the risk is any uncertainty upon that objective. We express risk as a combination of likelihood and consequence, as you can see on the screen in front of you there, and many of you will be very familiar with this, so I apologise if it's stuff that you know, but we're just starting from the building blocks of a risk assessment, and we use so combination of likelihood and consequence, and we'll use a risk matrix to assess a level of risk and determine a level of risk. So likelihood and consequence, this is the table in the safety and design risk assessment that describes frequency. It's based on the existing council project risk assessment template, so those frequencies might be familiar to you. So the descriptors are almost certain through to rare, with a frequency of once a day once a week to once a month to a year, right up into something which is rare that happens every 10 years or less frequently than that. Similarly with consequence, so we have a table there that describes consequence in terms of health impact, as that's what we're thinking about, health and safety. So catastrophic is obviously something which is involves loss of life or major injury, major life-threatening injury, moderate, something requiring medical attention, that might be a hospitalisation, minor first aid treatable, insignificant injuries but not requiring first aid. So we'll move on to the matrix here. And we use a combination, as I said, of likelihood and consequence to arrive at a risk level. So as a very basic example, if we had a consequence of moderate and a likelihood of possible, we'd have a risk rating of high. So fairly, it's as straightforward as that. So we're going to run into an example now. Just we'll do a risk assessment as a group, just so that we're all on board with how to undertake a risk assessment. And in this scenario here, we're looking at a road design where we've got a median, and the median is wide enough to be landscaped. So a decision is made to landscape the median. So let's assess. There's some risks around this, and I've identified there's a risk here around the maintenance of that landscape median. So as a group, we're going to assess this risk. So that the hazard is the live traffic which runs either side of that median. And the risk description is workers are struck by an errant vehicle. So when you're describing a risk, it's really important to describe the hazard and also the risk description. So the hazard is the source of harm. It's the thing that causes the harm. And in this case, it's the vehicles running next to the median in the traffic lane. And the risk is the event that happens. The risk is a vehicle leaving the traffic lane and striking a worker, or maybe even a worker sort of inadvertently stepping back into the lane because they're so focused on their jobs that they take their mind off the condition that that's around them. So I'm just going to, sorry. That's right. So we're going to do a poll so we can do a collective assessment of that risk. I think I've got a question in the chat here I saw. So from Tim, what traffic controls are in place? So we're going to assess this risk as if it were not mitigated. So so pretend that there's no mitigations in place, and that I know that would never occur, but workers are out there, just been sent out, similar to the situation in the photo, and are maintaining that landscape median as it looks there. So this is pre any risk control or risk mitigation. So I think Marissa's got a poll there ready to run. So collectively, we're going to estimate the likelihood for this risk, and we've got our our descriptors of frequency there. So we've got almost certain, once a day to once a week, likely once a week to once a month, possible once a month to a year, unlikely a year to every 10 years, and then rare over 10 years. So we'd actually need to sort of to do a full assessment. We'd be asking ourselves, well, how often would the median be maintained? We would look at things like, well, how long are they there for when they're out there doing work? So we are getting a few responses there. Maybe a few more to go. Give another 10 seconds as people think about this. Just going to grab a pen so I can write this down because I'll need it in a second. again, 26, another few seconds. Yeah, okay, we'll wrap that up there. Okay, and share those results, Marissa. Just going to bring. So everyone can see that. So there's a range of estimations around frequency, which is very much to be expected because we don't have, all the information here. So everyone's sort of got their different view of that scenario, and then their, a varied, I guess, opinion of the frequency of the risk occurring. So we've got everything from almost certain, likely, possible, and unlikely. And sometimes you'd also perhaps consider the speed of vehicles in there. So if you'd have estimated that as a high-speed road, that's Old North Road, by the way, that photo. So the posted limit there is, I think, 70 k's an hour. So that might affect your likelihood estimation. So we've got so possible. So once a month to once a year is the sort of dominant, but likely was followed closely by unlikely and then likely. So we'll take forward possible. We'll get to that, and we'll go to the second part of that. So that was looking at likelihood. So we'll go to consequence there. So we'll do another poll that considers the consequence of the risk occurring. So the risk is someone struck by a vehicle, probably travelling at some speed along that road. So yeah, responses coming in. Okay, I'll give it another few seconds. Almost there. All right, Marissa, we'll end that poll and we'll share that result. So a little more narrow on the range of opinion around the impact there, and I think we're hitting the mark there. So it's going to be a catastrophic loss of life or a major injury. So I think we've got catastrophic is the answer we've got a few more votes for. So we're going to take that forward. So let's go to the next slide here. I'll use my pen. So we went in terms of likelihood, where the group thought it was possible. And in terms of consequence, we went catastrophic. So we're at an extreme level of risk for that risk. So, which I think it's a very fair result, considering that we're not looking at any mitigations. We haven't considered any mitigations to this risk. So, all right, let's move forward. So this was my pre-webinar assessment of the risk, which was fairly close to, I think I said unlikely rather than possible, but and catastrophic, I was on board with that. So so my initial risk rating though ended up being the same, being an extreme as well. Let's go. And yeah, as I said earlier, there's expected to be some variation between assessment of risk between people, and by getting, I guess, those groups together, that safety and design consultation group together with a range of skills and experiences will allow us to improve the outcomes of our risk assessment. So I'm just going to go back to this scenario now, and I've suggested a control measure for the risk. The control measure is closure of the median lane, so the inside lane, the one right next to the landscape median. And reduced speed limit of 40 kilometres per hour under temporary traffic management. So there would be one lane of traffic in each direction on the curbside lane, the lane furthest away from the central median, and that would be running at 40 kilometres per hour. And temporary traffic management would be signage, traffic controllers, traffic cones, etc. So Let's jump back into a poll and now assess this risk with that particular mitigation or control measure in place. And Marissa can go up to the next poll. There it is. So let's assess the likelihood of the risk with the control measure in place.
Well, while we're waiting for those to come in, we've just had a comment or a question. I selected likely and moderate, which also results in an extreme risk. How can both extreme risks be differentiated?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that deserves a
prize.
Yes, yeah. Well, yeah. Clearly, there are different levels of risk in those bands, and to an extent, those risk matrices are somewhat subjective. So, I think it would just take a view of the, I guess, the combination of likelihood and consequence and understanding where that sits in the risk matrix. So that you could, I guess, further refine or distinguish those if there was a need to. I'm not sure if there is a need to. Like thinking back to module 1, we'll try and minimise risk as far as reasonably practical. So we're not trying to achieve a target risk range. And I have seen there's plenty of sort of risk matrices out there, and some of them have different distributions of extreme, high, medium, and low. So it depends, I guess, on your function, the end use of your risk matrix. But yeah, certainly there is some variation in those bands that have been assigned. So great question. Yeah, I see a follow-up question there from Clayton. I often see risk matrix produced with the numerical risk score. Yep. So you can get a scale of the risk within a band. Yeah, perfect. That's right. Clayton, those are out there. Yep. You probably write a thesis on the number of different risk matrices available. Okay, we've shared the results of this poll, Marissa. Yep. So now we've got a pretty even split between unlikely and rare. So which, yep, that's quite a shift, and that's understandable because we've lowered the speed, we've provided more separation, we've got traffic controllers out there. So I'll look to go with unlikely because it's just narrow favourite there. And we will move on and assess the health impact with that control measure in place. So I think Marissa can jump on to the next poll.
While they're taking the poll, just on that last one, how we had very close, unlikely, and rare, would it be, I guess it would be more wise to take the more conservative one if you're in a workshop group and you've got 10 people, 5 say one, 5 say the other, is it better to take that more conservative approach?
Yeah, that could be an option, Marco. I think yeah, as it sort of maybe relates to the question about the risk matrix as well. So it establishes a level of risk, but we're always going to be trying to move that risk. I do all that we reasonably can to minimise the risk. So, but yeah, I think it's probably a fair approach though to take the more conservative view. I guess it gives it more visibility. I guess some of those higher risk ratings get looked at a bit more closely. So
okay.
Yep.
Prize for Marco.
All right. How are we going here? Need a few more responses. There we go. All right. I'm just about there. How about we close that poll, Marissa? Share the results. There we go. So we've got a bit more of a spread in terms of the risk, the health impact outcome. We've dropped the speed to 40 k's an hour. It's still going to be if I've got my safe systems hat on, a threshold speed for a crash involving a vulnerable road user is 30 kilometres per hour. So we're above that Doesn't mean that every crash is going to result in a fatality. Some speed might wash off between the traffic lane as someone's realised what they've done or something. There's a number of scenarios that could occur. So I think it's reasonable that we've got this distribution of potential, I guess, consequences or impacts. So the majority view consider it's moderate. So let's pen that down, and we'll move on. And I see just a question there. Should this be answered assuming the worst case scenario, or assume everyone is driving is going to abide by the implemented measures? So I think in terms of, I guess, risk assessments generally, I try and take the most likely outcome and assess for that risk, because there was always going to be extreme cases of, I guess, behaviour if you're talking about drivers. So, and it does open up a lot of potential combinations, but I think the general practice in risk is to assess the most likely outcome. So the most likely outcome, I guess, in this situation would be that majority of drivers abide by the traffic control in place. We all know that there's going to be outliers to that, but in terms of risk assessment, that's the approach to take. Right, we've shared those results. So we've got unlikely and moderate there as the likelihood and consequences with the mitigation in place. So now I have to remember, so we were possible and catastrophic, I guess, without control measures, we were there. And then with control measures in place, we were unlikely and moderate. So we've moved the risk from extreme down to medium. So there we go. So the question, I guess, that we've got to ask ourselves is: is there more that we can reasonably do to further reduce the risk? And this was one control measure that I'd identified, and there's no doubt there's going to be others as well that are available. I think yesterday was one of the quizzes. Road closure is certainly an option there to allow people to work, without any exposure to live traffic. So, but I think that's the key. I guess the premise of the so far as is reasonably practical approach is that we continue and we look to minimise that risk or eliminate that risk where we can, if it's reasonable to do so. So just, this is my slide. So I'd actually assess this as likelihood rare, but with a major impact side. I only moved it, I'm just going to flick back, rare and major. So I only moved it down to here. That was my assessment. So yeah, perhaps there is more that we could do to mitigate this risk. It's another risk matrix. Okay, so yeah, it's certainly one to think about. We're just about to have a break, but if you want to add into the chat, then any other measures that could be used to be applied there to further reduce the risk, please go ahead. Yeah, I see a few rolling in there. So we're just about to have that break, and then we'll come back for that small group exercise. So it's 2:45 now. Shall we say, come back? Sorry, I saw fake plants in the chat. So I think one that made me laugh yesterday was got a prize. So I think that can get a prize.
Hans has got it
too. Prize for
Hannes.
Yeah. I know there's some synthetic grass up at Moreton Bay, so maybe thinking of those along those lines.
Not anymore.
No, okay.
No, we're not using it anymore. So
there's been a change. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's it's just clicked on 246. So let's come back at 251, and we'll roll into our small group exercise.
All right. We'll do.
Thanks, everyone. See you in a bit. Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you are refreshed from the break. G'day, Marco. There's a quote. Yes, yeah. I'll just go back to a question from Aaron in the chat, which was, is there an intent within the mitigation measures to remove the risk of FSI outcomes similar to that within road safety audits? And I guess, yeah, the safe system approach looks to is looking, to eliminate the risk of fatal and serious injury crashes from the road network from a road safety perspective. I guess if through the safety and design process, if we've applied mitigations that are reasonably practical, and we still end up with an outcome which is one that involves a high risk of fatal or serious injury to workers, then it's probably a call to review the activity or the structure or the design or the approach. So it would certainly require sort of, I think, an organisational rethink. Is my view. Marco, you might have a thought on that as well. You're just on mute there. Sorry, Marco. Still muted.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm back. Yeah, no, I think I what you said has got it covered. I don't think I've got anything to add to that, but yeah.
Yep. Excellent. Okay, let's go into our small group exercise now. So what we're going to do is undertake a sort of an abbreviated version of a safety and design assessment using a design project that is something that is within council, is either being prepared by council or external designer, but all projects within Moreton Bay. So in our abbreviated safety and design assessment, we're going to identify the design context, the risk context we spoke about, the required skills and specialist involvement needed, and then form your safety and design consultation group. So just identify on those people that you'd want to be present when you undertake your risk workshop and have their input to the risk assessment process. We obviously won't be able to get everyone here today. We've just got who we've got attending the webinar. So we just want you to identify who you would invite if you were actually undertaking one for actual project you were running. And then we're going to, or in your small groups, we're going to undertake a risk assessment. In that risk assessment, we'll ask you to identify between a minimum of 2, perhaps up to 4 risks and associated mitigations. And then we're going to come back as a group and as a one large group, and each of the small groups is going to present at least 2 risk items to everyone else. So these are the...
Which means someone will have to be brave and talk to everyone else.
I'm sure there's many brave people.
I don't know, not in the designer group. Not.
I'm sure we'll be fine. I'm supremely confident those people are out there. So just to go over that, there'll be a into the details. So there's in the LMS, Marissa's popped up, ready to tell everyone probably about the LMS and how to access things.
Yeah. Did you want to? You're going to run through each.
Yeah, I was going to run through each one. Yeah, we can.
Maybe you do that first, and then I'll show them where they can find those designs in the LMS. Let's go that way first.
Yep. Okay. So these are the. So we're going to form 6 groups today. So there's 7, I guess, projects on the screen. So don't worry about the last one. So we're working on 1 to 6. And I'll just step through each of them, provide a small overview so that you have a little bit of an idea, and then you'll access some design plans that have been kindly provided by Marco. Now, I acknowledge that it's sometimes it's hard to grasp a set of design plans and then instantaneously understand everything that's going on. I know that we've got a lot of designers in the group, so maybe it's going to be no problem at all. So, but just looking at these ones, it took me a couple of minutes to work out what was going on in each one. Yeah, appreciate that you don't know this site, you haven't been out to site, possibly you have, and there's going to be some other assessments and reports as well that you would have access to in a typical project. So acknowledging all that, I'd ask you to do the best you can with the information that you have available to you. So we're just going to step through each of the sites 1 to 6, and then Marissa can run us through there where to grab the information from, and the risk table and the Word doc just to complete for the exercise. So project 1 is the cliff stabilisation at Scarborough. So there's a few items of work here that I'll point out. There's an unstable crest here that's going to be removed from the top of the cliff. There's some parts from the midsection of those cliffs that'll be unstable parts removed, and then at the bottom of the cliff there'll be some concrete protection, I think, up to a point there. So, and that's obviously down the bottom of the cliff. You'll be exposed to the ocean, I guess you can see in your picture there. So that's the first project. Second one is the Cedar Creek Road upgrade. Now I'm told reliably by Barco that this part of Cedar Creek Road serves a one-way in, one-way out catchment. So I guess when you're thinking about your mitigations and you're thinking about a complete road closure, that may not be reasonably practical in terms of the people that live and need to use that road. So you can see that in the section that I've grabbed here, and I think I've lined it up with the photo, is that the road falls away, the terrain sort of falls away from the road. There's a small embankment on this side, and it looks as though from the type section that the new road is constructed on top of the old road, so there might be some level differences during construction as that occurs and the road is built up. I like this one. This is an interesting one. So this is a bioretention basin decommissioning at Bray Park. So that's, you can sort of see that in there behind the fence is some sandstone type retaining wall blocks that are forming this sort of narrow basin, I guess, surrounded by that fence. There's a bus bay just up here, which is that sort of concrete pad, so there'll be some adjoining activity. Yeah, so the basin is being demolished and replaced with a 1050 diameter pipe. So this one is some LATM treatments and stormwater renewal at Wee Point. So you've got, there's a pub there, a fish and chip shop on this side, already landscaped a roundabout there at the bottom of your screen. So that's that. We've got some islands here with landscaping in them, and some new stormwater pipes along the road there. You'll see when you get into your design set, there's a lot of PEP around there as well, so perhaps a consideration. And 5, so fauna infrastructure at Eaton's Hill. So fauna infrastructure, not something I know too much about, but I understand that there's you've got your green infrastructure team at council, and there's a fair bit of it throughout Moreton Bay, which is great. So here I can see there's a post and rail fauna crossing in a culvert. So that's that I think that blue stuff up there, and that sort of runs through the bank up here, probably where those trees are. There's a culvert through there. There is a fauna rope bridge under this bridge, so that's that red line here, which I'm putting more red on. So that's under there somewhere, and then there's also some fauna fencing parallel to the road as well, and another post and rail fence under the bridge as well. So there's a bit going on there. I guess this is one that if it were being designed, I know internally you've got a lot of skills in green infrastructure. Externally, though, if you're asking someone to use this, incorporate this infrastructure in their design, something about, and they may not, have that same level of expertise. So it's a good example of getting the right skills involved, and your green infrastructure team might need to be part of a consultant's safety and design assessment, so they can pass on some knowledge there to the external design consultant. And the last one, playground construction at Griffin. So I tried to look this up on Street View, but it was unsuccessful. So this must be pretty newish type area, or the Google car hasn't got down here yet. So you'll have to make the best of perhaps aerial view and appreciation of the plans. And there's also a schedule of finishes specification that's included with this design. So that's specifying details around the bins, drinking fountains, a shade shelter as well. So I remember we talked about designers as being anyone that specifies how something is constructed. Well, that that specification does form part of that design. So that's important. There's I think there's an indicative footpath. Oh, there it is. So there's the footpath alignment here. I think that's the area of the playground, and that's the footpath sort of leads off down to Riverview Parkway there. So yeah, that's an interesting design example there. And that's the one that we're not going to cover. So no one pick up the PDF with Group 7 on it. So let's go back. So this is probably where, Marissa, you can jump in and let us know where to find the information.
So I was going to refer you to the LMS, but I've actually just popped the documents into the chat. I think, can you all see those in there? Yep. Yep, you can see them?
Yep.
Yep, okay, great, beautiful. Okay, so what we're going to do, as Paul has described, I'm going to break you out into 6 groups. So you'll just, it'll be breakout rooms. So you'll just pop off out of the main screen into your own breakout room screen, and there'll be, maybe 5 or 6 or so, I don't know how many we've got on you in the, of you in that group. We ask that someone nominate themselves in the group to share their screen and be the scribe, I suppose. So based on whichever room that you're allocated to, so if you're allocated to room 2, just open up the group 2 PDF. That'll have your site design. And there are a couple of documents. There's a risk assessment spreadsheet just up above in the chat, and a Word document also. The Word document is what will get you to populate, and perhaps you'd like to, Paul, seeing as you've got your screen, do you want to talk them through those 2 documents at all? Or they?
Yeah, I was just about to open one. So can everyone see that? I've dragged it onto the screen I'm sharing. So this is just a very simple way that you pop your group number in there, your design that you're working on or having to look at. And I'll just, in accordance with those sort of tasks, we want to define the design context, and that's just explaining the purpose of the structure, intended use, service requirements, and service life. And you don't have that information, we haven't given it to you, so you can use your best knowledge or estimate to work out, a service requirement or intended life. The risk context, identify the ways that the structure will be a workplace. That will be important, and any workplace hazards that you can identify would be relevant. Not expecting you to, I've just grabbed this out of the slide pack, so you're not, you've just picked up the design, you're not going to, understand what the relevant legislation, codes of practice or standards are. So you don't have to complete those. Required specialist skills and involvement, just jot down there those disciplines that you think will be involved in the safety and design consultation group. And then the safety and design consultation group members, those other externals that you would like to be part of the safety and design consultation group to bring in that knowledge, and that might include your construction team, your asset management team, or representatives from those groups. And I'll just click open the safety and design risk assessment. And I had snips of those. There we go. So working in Excel, now this is the in red. You can leave it there. That's what I've used as an example, I guess, and that's what I've presented in the presentation a bit earlier. And they were my assessments at the time. So you can just continue working below that one there, and come up with, as I said, at least 2, but maybe 3 or 4 hazards, risk descriptions, through your assessment, and then identify some control measures. Ideally, you come back to the group and you can share these two documents and talk us through the hazard and the risk you identified, your assessment of its risk, and then control measures that you've identified.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, yeah, we'll get you off into your groups. We'll have you in your groups for perhaps, what do you think, about 20 minutes or so, Paul?
Yeah, let's say 20 minutes, yep.
Yeah, so about 20 minutes. We'll give you a bit of an announcement. I'll broadcast an announcement when there's about 5 minutes remaining, and then when there's 1 minute remaining, and we'll close the rooms and you'll all return. Paul and Marco will pop in just to see how you're going, provide a bit of guidance if needed. And yeah, we'll kick it off. All right, so in a moment, I'll just assign them now. You'll just be randomly assigned to a room, and we'll see you soon. I'm just hitting create on those now, Paul.
Excellent.
And you'll all shift off into your rooms in a moment.
Cool. Uh-huh. We'll just give them a couple of minutes to grab their information.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. How are you going for time? All right, everyone's in their groups. That's good. So you'll be able to see, the rooms, who's in which room. You can see who's speaking, who starts sharing their screen. You'll see an icon change. So, for example, room 4, Jamie's got his camera on, so he might be the one to share his screen. But yeah, you can have a look through. So it's 3. So we'll bring them back at 3:30.
Yep. Yeah, I think so. Let's give them 20 minutes.
Yeah. All right. Beautiful. All right.
And that gives us about sort of.
I think I drew the short straw.
Daniel. Yep. Thanks, Daniel.
Our design context was the purpose of the structure was to remove and replace an ineffective stormwater treatment device. The intended use was to convey stormwater. Service requirements were access for inspection or access for maintenance. Some of the risks that we identified were probably most of them were around construction, working near the roadway, deep excavations, trench collapse, falling, heavy lifting with machinery to remove the sandstone blocks and to install the large pipes. There's risk, I guess, of rupturing the adjacent water main when the blocks are removed and the ground's unsupported, and confined space access, I guess, from probably a maintenance perspective. The required skills and specialist involvement was construction and maintenance, and we had consultation group members included asset maintenance, stormwater engineers, construction supervisors, landscape designers. And we didn't really, we ran out of time. We didn't really get to look at the risk assessment side of the task, unfortunately.
That's okay, Daniel. We might have shortchanged you in terms of time there, but it sounds as though you've given a lot of thought to those earlier stages, particularly, I mean, your identification of hazards was quite comprehensive there. So you were certainly on the right track, and we might give the future groups a bit more time, but yeah, appreciate that input.
I think the other thing I want to add is for this project is that it's not a very large project, but it just goes to show how many hazards there are. You might look at it and say, oh, it's only one pipe replacement, but as Daniel listed all those items that could be potential workplace issues, there's actually quite a few. So the size of the job doesn't necessarily indicate the number of issues that may be related to it.
Yeah, it looks pretty.
We did.
Sorry, Daniel.
Sorry, I was involved in this design too, which was an advantage. But we did consult with our internal construction group quite heavily with this project to determine that it was practical and to do what we were proposing. Yeah.
So that's how you had your comprehensive list of hazards already there, ready to go.
It was luck of the draw. I was really surprised when I dropped into the group and this was the one that he got.
All right, excellent. Maybe a prize there just for such a comprehensive knowledge of the job, Marissa. All right, let's move on to group 4, the LATM and stormwater renewal. At Woody Point, have we got from group 4?
Aaron and Nita. Oh, yeah. Sheldon?
Sorry, that would be me. Yep.
Sorry.
Thanks. Yeah, so we had the Woodcliff LATM Woody Point job. Sorry, let me just share my screen. That might help. Actually, no, that's all good. I'll just speak to it. Yeah, so just running through the context of the job. So it's primarily for traffic calming, safety, improving drainage, and obviously there's a beautification component and placemaking component of it for the community. Impacts all road users, so vulnerable road users. There's benefits to the community there. Reduction in speeding. Generally, service life is about 15 to 20 years we came up with. And there were a number of risks that we identified, which might be in the context of this project, such as working adjacent to traffic, the overhead power, adjacent to potentially large drops and working in confined spaces, working with machinery and in the outdoors as well was another one that was raised. The project, which was recently completed, I believe, involved many different skills. So you had the landscape designers, traffic engineers involved, designers, construction supervisors, and also drainage involved in it as well. We did get to some of the components of the risk assessment. So I'll just run through a few here that we came up with. So yeah, working near live traffic was one of the key ones that we identified. Workers working within the construction site potentially being hit by an errant vehicle. That could be possible or likely, I guess, but with a major ramification or impact. So the initial risk rating for us was extreme. One of the control measures that we looked at were, well, you could potentially have a different type of traffic management strategy, such as contraflow, operating with reduced speed limits to reduce the impact of that. So yeah, values after the control became more like a sort of a rare situation with a moderate sort of impact, reduced severity for the consequence. Another one that we had was working outdoors. So, if you're working in summer, there would be potential for heat stroke, fatigue, possible sunburn. that could be likely, and if you're working in the Australian summer heat, with a a moderate sort of impact to the worker there. So one of our control measures was to basically set up hydration stations, using sunscreen, PPE, and having fatigue management plans in place, which resulted in, I guess, a control, a revised control of unlikely for the likelihood and minor impact, and a residual risk rating of low, essentially. So yeah, those are a few that we came up with.
Excellent. Thank you, Sheldon. All right, we might just jump on to 5 there. So the fauna infrastructure at Eaton's Hill. So who have we got from group 5 sharing?
That's me.
Yep. Thanks, Nadia.
Yeah, we might just, if for the last 2 groups, if it's okay, we might just jump into the risk assessment if you got that far, so you can give us the risks that you identified and discuss the mitigations, just because we don't want to hold anyone past 4 o'clock.
Yep, sure. So our project was installation of a fauna structure for the safe passage of fauna and wildlife, and to improve the road safety and traffic operations by preventing motorists from interacting with the fauna. So the 2 risks that we identified for this project were working at height and working near traffic. So the first risk is that a worker falls from heights when installing the fauna rope bridge, and the likelihood is possible and the impact would be major, with results in an extreme risk. The control measures we came up with were to carry out most of the installation works on ground before raising it in place, and using harnesses when working at height, and or using elevated work platforms like scissor lifts, etc. This reduced our risk to low, having a likelihood of unlikely and a minor impact. The other risk is that a worker gets hit by a vehicle, and this falls under the category of exposure in the vicinity of the workplace. The initial likelihood was unlikely, but the impact was catastrophic, which gave us a risk of a high risk rating, extreme risk rating for this risk. The control measures suggested are to reduce the speed limits to 40 kilometers under temporary traffic management, and potentially move traffic away from the work zone, which reduced our risk to a low risk rating.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll jump on to the last group 6 there. It was the playground construction at Griffin. So we got from group 6, Simon.
Yeah, that's me. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just be quick. I'll just go to some of the unique ones we had. Obviously, we've got a river and an embankment, so we saw those as rather the unique ones we'd have to be very considerate of. So with the river, obviously the worst case could be a drowning if someone slipped, fell all the way down. So we thought fencing and warning signs, and that could obviously stop someone, at least if they fell, they wouldn't go all the way to the river. With the embankment, it's the same, slip and fall, the fencing would slow that, at least reduce the fall. The other thing was the potential of landslip, so on the embankment. So we decided you have to have controls in place for proximity of working next to the embankment, and obviously probably checking the stabilization of the embankment and so on before any heavy activity machinery was put to use. Then the other ones were quite common ones, so I won't go into them, but they were like how we rated them, because they were pretty straightforward, with like the conflict, the roadside pathway conflict, underground services, the fact we're putting in new trees, we're constructing a shade sail, we've got big heavy sandstone blocks coming in, we've got heavy machinery coming in. So we assessed all those as obviously having a very potential risk level, and how we'd mitigate those. We put a few things around those.
Simon, that's I joined your group there at the end. Those risks about falling down the slope, is that like a worker falling down, or is that during construction? I wasn't too
that's
clear
right.
on the thought there.
the thinking
Yeah,
was
okay.
that we are working very close to the river and an
Mhm.
embankment. So we thought,
Mm.
you know, we have to put in controls there should something go wrong.
Yep. Yep. That's fair. There's a hazard there. So great. Excellent. Okay. So well, that was 7. We didn't go there. So thanks very much for your presentations. I know I asked you to do a fair bit there in a short space of time, but you know, clearly, you know, everyone is thinking around the safety and design and the occasions where, you know, when we're constructing a structure and it's a workplace or after it's constructed, and those sort of activities where it can become a workplace. So great, thank you everyone for contributing. Just one last point before we sort of close for the day, and that was around information transfer. So it's important that that once you've done all this good work and you've done your safety and design assessments, the information and the work that you've done actually makes it to those people later in the project life. So the safety and design, I guess a package can include or should include all your design documentation. That's any design drawings, sketches, also your specifications and any system of work, as well as your formal safety and design report that includes your safety and design risk assessment. We should provide that information in a way that workers can get to it, not sort of tucked away in the in a report somewhere that is more difficult to discover. So it's important that you think about the ways that you can present information most easily to those people that will benefit from it. So that might be represented in a drawing, because I guess drawings might be more visible to those doing the work than reports. It could be on posters in grid pups. There's really no restriction to how we present and transfer the report, that it is transferred to those people that will use it. So that's the end of module 2, and just to quickly recap on all those steps that we introduced through the safety and design process, from the risk context through the workshop, right down to the preparation of the safety and design summary or SID report and its transfer. There was a question there from Andrew. I might take that on notice and get back to you about that one, since we're just about to come out up to 4 o'clock.
Yeah, I'll note that down and we'll get back to Andrew.
Yep.
Paul, I'll just provide some final information on, I'll just share my screen, just on completing the course. You can see that, Paul?
Yes, yep.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right. So most of you already jumped in and completed the module 1 quiz. Thank you so much. If you haven't, there's still time to do that one. We've got another quiz for today. For today's module 2. So similar thing, just another 10 questions, multiple choice. If you just attempt that quiz, yeah, we'll just get you to complete that one. To get your certificate of completion, down in feedback and certificates, just a short feedback form, if you could please complete that one. Once you have completed the module 1 and 2 quiz, and you've successfully completed that and achieved the pass mark, and you've completed the feedback form, your certificate will become available for you to click and to download. So that is all you need to do to complete the course and obtain your certificate there. We've got just a few of the documents from today's small group of exercises here in this folder, should you want to refer back to them. And I don't know if anybody has any other questions come in. How do you access the quiz? It's in your learning management system that we've given you access to. Hopefully you've had a chance to log in. It's just there under modules 1 and 2, just as I just showed there on the screen. If you just click on module 1 quiz or module 2 quiz, and you can attempt that. But any issues, please email me. And I can help you out. But I think that's it. That takes us to 3:59. We're right on time, Paul.
That's fine.
I was just going to add in there. I did send an email out after the first session to everyone in this group to provide send me an email if they've got any comments. But I've just seen that you've got the feedback thing there in the learning module as well. So either or. So
yeah, either or, please do. Yeah, we definitely welcome your feedback. We hope you've enjoyed the sessions. Thank you so much, Paul and Marco.
No worries. Thank you for all your help in handing out the prizes.
Yeah. Oh, prizes. Yes, prizes for all of those keen. They'll be sent out upon successful completion of your coursework. So if those bits done, we'll send them out. But otherwise, thanks for joining and have a good day.
See you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.